Mr. President, for 50 years, the Land and Water Conservation Fund has done amazing work protecting our lands, our waterways, our forests, our state and local parks, and critical wildlife habitats. This is particularly true in New Hampshire, where since 1965, LWCF has funded more than 650 individual projects in New Hampshire. Just this month, New Hampshire received 8 new LWCF grants, which will allow New Hampshire communities to develop outdoor recreation facilities in Dover, which is close to where I live, to renovate Osgood Pond in Milford, and so many other projects. In the last couple of months, I've actually had a chance to go around New Hampshire and visit so many of these projects that were done because of LWCF grants. And one of the things that really struck me about them is that they're not for big projects, although some have been used towards doing that. The Silvio Conti National Wildlife Preserve that crosses Vermont and New Hampshire is one of those that's been preserved with Judd Gregg, former senator from New Hampshire, Republican senator. With his help, LWCF has helped preserve that. But so many of these grants have been used for small projects in communities like Meredith in the Lakes region of New Hampshire on Lake Winnipesaukee, where I visited. They've been able to expand the park along the lake so that people, not only from Meredith, but from across the state and other parts of the country, when they're visiting, can come and sit and enjoy the water. They've been able to put in new docks with those projects so that people can get out on the lake on boats and enjoy the water. Without LWCF, those projects would not have been possible, and it gets people out into the outdoors who otherwise wouldn't be able to do that. Federal and state LWCF funds are also vital to the outdoor recreation industry in New Hampshire. That's one of our biggest industries. It accounts for $4.2 billion in consumer spending, $1.2 billion in wages and salaries, and nearly 50,000 jobs. And the importance of these projects and the conservation efforts that are the result of LWCF to the tourism sector and our economy, to our outdoor industry, they cannot be overstated. Now, there has been bipartisan support for LWCF really since its inception back in the 60s. And there is a bill that Senator Burr has introduced, and I'm a co-sponsor of, that would extend LWCF for 60 days. Unfortunately, last night, LWCF expired. Its authorization ended as of September 30th. And the effort to reauthorize the program, to invoke Senator Burr's and this bipartisan legislation, was defeated. And when they objected to a simple short-term extension of LWCF, our Republican friends indicated it was because they believe most LWCF funding goes to federal land acquisition. Well, I would like the record to reflect that this is just not the case. I have seen it firsthand in New Hampshire, in those projects that I've talked about. I would bet the presiding officer has seen it in North Carolina, the support that LWCF has provided. In fact, during the last 10 years, WCF funds have been split about 50-50 between federal agencies and states. And in New Hampshire, what these federal grants do is to leverage state support and private support and local support. Moreover, most federal lands that are acquired with LWCF funds are within the existing boundaries of federal parks, refuges, forests, and other recreation areas. And consolidating these lands helps reduce federal maintenance and management costs. It saves taxpayer dollars, and it enhances the experience that visitors have to these areas. For example, in 2014, 39 of 40 LWCF National Forest acquisitions expanded access to property already managed by the federal government that had been previously closed to the public. So this is not about keeping the public off these lands. This is about helping make sure the public can get on these lands and benefit from them and enjoy them. So I'm really disappointed that we have seen a few people blocking the extension of this program in a way that affects every single state in this country. Our failure to act has significant consequences for each and every state. The expiration of this program jeopardizes access to public lands for hunting and fishing, which is one of the great benefits that we have in New Hampshire that we use these lands for. It prohibits access to other outdoor activities that are important and unique to our American heritage. And this is going to adversely impact our nation's outdoor recreation, conservation, and preservation economy. In New Hampshire, our whole outdoor industry is affected. That outdoor industry contributes over $1 trillion to our nation each year, and it supports millions of American jobs. Now, I think it's critical that we pass a short-term extension to keep this program operating. But ultimately, what we need to do is to pass a bill that permanently reauthorizes and fully funds LWCF, something that a majority of this body, a bipartisan majority, supports doing. Now, I'm going to continue working to pass a permanent authorization. I know that Senator Burr, my colleague from New Hampshire, Senator Ayotte, other people who are on this bill feel the same way. But I think in the meantime, we should not allow LWCF to lapse any longer. So in a minute, I'm going to renew a unanimous consent request that was made last night by my colleague from New Mexico, Senator Heinrich, to pass a 60-day extension. Now, I recognize that this request is going to be objected to by Senator Langford, who I see on the floor here. But I just want to remind us all that less than 2 weeks ago, 53 senators wrote the Senate Majority Leader urging action to reauthorize LWCF. And to the 12 Republican senators who signed that letter, I say this: I hope you will work with us to correct the misconceptions and the mischaracterizations about this program that exist. And let's work together so we can allow this short-term extension to pass. And let's work together to get a long-term reauthorization for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, because LWCF has expanded outdoor opportunities in every single state in the country. We should come together to support the Land and Water Fund to protect one of America's most essential tools for conservation and economic growth. So with that, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Energy and Natural Resources Committee be discharged and that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of S-2101. And I ask unanimous consent that the bill be read a third time and passed and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table.